Welcome to r/Am I the Jerk, where Karen is demanding to live with her son. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my parents live with me? About a year ago, I, 29 male, bought my first house. My parents generously offered me $20,000 towards the down payment, which they framed as a gift. I was extremely grateful, as they know that I had been saving for years, and I wanted a place to call my own. I'd even invited them to celebrate with me the day I got the keys, and everything seemed like it was fine. Fast forward to 3 months ago, my dad lost his job unexpectedly, and my mom's part-time work isn't enough to support them. They called me up one day and casually mentioned that they'd be moving in with me until they got back on their feet. I was stunned, as they had never even asked. They just assumed. When I hesitated, they reminded me of the $20,000 they had given me for the house and said it was time I paid them back by helping them out. This was news to me. They'd repeatedly assured me it was a gift, no strings attached, and that they were just happy to help me achieve my dream of homeownership. Now they were calling it a loan, even though there was never any mention of repayment, let alone interest or expectations of them moving in someday. I was hesitant but willing to talk about it, and I suggested that they stay temporarily. They dismissed this and said they'd be moving in indefinitely until things turn around, adding that they'd expect full access to the house and even suggested taking over my office as their bedroom. They also told me they'd like to have more say in how I run my home. After all, they did help me pay for it. Feeling cornered, I explained that while I love them and would gladly help in other ways, like paying some of their bills temporarily or letting them stay for a set period, I wasn't comfortable with them moving in indefinitely. This is my home, my sanctuary, and I've worked hard for it. They were furious, saying I was ungrateful and that families should support each other. They also claimed that since they invested in the house, that they're entitled to live in it as long as they need to. My dad even hinted that he'd take me to court if I didn't pay back their loan, though I'm fairly certain he was bluffing. Now, several family members have weighed in, saying that I'm the jerk for turning my back on my parents after they helped buy me the house. But I feel like they changed the terms after the fact, and I don't think it's fair to demand indefinite housing when that was never even part of the deal. So, am I the jerk for refusing to let my parents move in after they loaned me for the down payment? Not the jerk. It sounds like something pretty significant is missing here. How did your father go from being able to give you $20,000 a year ago to being on the verge of homelessness 3 months ago? I get the feeling there's more to this than just him losing his job. Regardless, if you let them come through that door, they will never leave. I don't know what's going on in terms of the dynamic between you and them, but they sound like they're very manipulative and entirely dishonest. Do not let them move in. You will regret it. They will never leave. Think about it. Always there, changing your home until it's theirs, until you get so fed up, you'll pack up and leave. They gave you the money as a gift, and now they mismanaged their finances and are reframing it, lying that they invested into your home. BS. Don't let them move in. Not the jerk. Am I the jerk for not taking my fiance's kid to trick-or-treating and went to a Halloween party instead? I, 29 female, am engaged to my fiance, 35 male. My fiance has a 7-year-old son from a previous relationship. His ex got pregnant on their first date, and they tried to make it work for the sake of the baby. She eventually left him when their son was 2, and I met my fiance about a year later. His ex can be very difficult, and my fiance avoids confrontation because he's terrified of losing time with his son. She constantly threatens to take him to court again and make him pay for it. It took years of court battles for him to even get 50-50 custody. Anyway, his ex doesn't like me to refer to him as stepson or son, only by his first name, was with us last night. He was supposed to go trick-or-treating with his dad. I had a Halloween fundraiser party for work that I had to attend, as I was the MC, so I couldn't just cancel last minute. My coworkers and I were also doing a group costume, Golden Girls. I'm tall, so I was Dorothy, so there was no way to back out. My fiance texted me saying he had to stay longer at work because his boss required it. I told him I couldn't take his son trick-or-treating and asked what I should do. He never replied. I then reached out to his ex, explaining, I know it's not your time, but could you do us a huge favor and take him trick-or-treating? I really can't miss this work event. She said no, stating, it's his time, he should figure something out, and added that she had plans with her new boyfriend and his kids, who are 9 and 11. Next, I texted my best friend, who has 3 kids around my fiance's son's age, to see if she could help. Her kids have had playdates with him before when he was with us. She said it wouldn't be a problem, so she picked him up and I headed for the party. My fiance later picked him up from her house, and his son told him he had a great time trick-or-treating with the other kids. My friend posted a photo of the kids trick-or-treating and tagged me and my fiance. My fiance commented, thanking her and her husband for saving the day. Meanwhile, my coworkers tagged me in posts from the company event. My fiance's ex then lost it. She posted online, accusing me of being selfish and caring more about work than spending time with his son, claiming that I prioritized partying and drinking over being there for him. She even stole one of my tagged photos, saying that if I cared more about partying than taking care of a kid, I wasn't ready to be a stepmother or a mother. All the comments on her post sided with her, saying I should have canceled because it was just a party. My fiance told me I did the right thing and that we should just ignore her. But was it a selfish move on my part? Not the jerk. But why is she able to see anything from your social media accounts? That's dumb on your part. Block her from everything. I'd be commenting on that post. You told me I would never be his stepmother or any sort of parental figure to him. You can't change your mind now to try and make me look bad when you made clear he's not my responsibility and he's here to be with his dad only and not me. Sorry if abiding by your rules somehow makes you mad. How do I tell my boyfriend that we're so broke we need to go to the food bank? I have a job and I have a side business. It's slow season for my business, so income is next to nothing. I recently changed jobs to a better paying one in steady hours, but I'll get a half paycheck on the 15th and my full pay will be on the 29th. My old job did not pay nearly enough or give me enough hours, so my last pay from them will only have 4 hours worth. I got paid 2 days ago. I paid about half the bills, and I have $80 to last me. I haven't gotten groceries or dog food, plus there are no more bills to be paid. I've asked my boyfriend to spend money wisely because I literally have no extra money. I spent the day yesterday looking for loose change around the house and taking in bottles and cans to pay a little more on bills. The boyfriend did fill up my gas tank so I could get to work for the next little while. Yes, my boyfriend should chip in more with the bills. He doesn't. Yes, it's a problem I'm working on. Either way, it doesn't solve my immediate problem, food. I found my local food bank and I can pick up a basket of food after applying for it. The catch? They want the IDs of everyone in the household, but only one of us have to be present. I obviously need his consent to take his ID. I'm beyond embarrassed admitting that my business has put me so behind on bills that I have to go to the food bank. I really don't know how to approach this. Any advice? Update. Here are some answers to questions that I keep seeing. 1. My business is selling baked goods at farmers markets. I sold at 4 main weekly markets over the summer season. It's slow during the fall before the Christmas season begins, which for us isn't until mid-November. It's not an MLM. 2. My boyfriend does have a full-time job. Where does his money go? Before he started living with me, he lived with his sister, helping her raise 3 kids. They rented a place together. He still pays her his portion of the rent and says he will continue to do so until their lease ends in the spring. But of course, with rising costs, he's worried about her being able to afford a place on her own with the kids. Their biological dad is a deadbeat and barely pays child support. My boyfriend does spend a lot of money on takeout though, and I'm trying to curb that habit. I'm not asking people for money. If anyone offers, I'll say no. I'm not going to ask for random handouts from strangers on the internet. I live in a smaller city. There's only one food bank. I can't go find another. I will most likely not be going there after someone pointed out I'd be taking food out of other kids' mouths. Now I can't get that image out of my head. I can probably find more loose change around the house and vehicle and get a Costco hot dog on the drive home for a while. I also have a friend who owns an egg farm. He's agreed to give me eggs he can't sell to the grocery stores for a while. I have no kids, just a dog. The dog will not starve. I'll make sure he has food before I do. It won't be the high-quality food for a while, but he has an iron stomach and he's not picky. Yes, there's much more to contribute to a household than finances. Unfortunately, with my depression, I find it difficult to get anything done around the house, and the boyfriend is happy to let everything slide as well. Yes, I'm in therapy, but sadly with my new job, it's going to have to go on hold for a while as I had to give up my weekly slot as I'd be working. She doesn't have any vacancies outside of my working hours right now, and obviously, I really need this job. I don't follow the problem here. Let me play this back to you. You and your boyfriend live together, he doesn't chip in half of the bills, and you shoulder the majority of your cost of living? You can't afford food, so you need to go to the food bank, and for that, you need his ID? If that's the case, it's exactly what you need to say to him. We can't afford food. I found a solution and need your ID. The end. Yeah, I think I can see the problem. He's not just financially dependent on her, he's emotionally dependent as well. This is clear to me from her asking how she will break the news to him that they're beyond flat broke. She's in protective mode, which is why she's coming across as defensive. Reading between the lines, there's a lot going on here. Potentially the news will be overwhelming to him and lead to a reaction that she can predict, but is reluctant to tell us about. She's taken on the entire emotional work and financial work of the relationship, so it's not a partnership, it's a dependency, one which she herself may have to hit rock bottom to get out of if she's so unwilling to lay anything difficult on him. Perhaps she's always walking on eggshells around him. Am I the jerk for telling my husband we need to buy our daughter a new car? Plus updates and shocking ending. The husband posted first, asking, "Am I the jerk for telling my daughter I won't budge even if she never speaks to me again?" My daughter, Casey, who's 17, worked and saved up money for around a year to be able to afford a better car than we could buy for her with our family budget. My other daughter, Alana, who's 16 and has ADHD, recently got her driver's license and asked to drive Casey's car. Casey allowed it, but Alana ended up having a bad accident around 6 months ago, which basically rendered the car unusable. The insurance payout wasn't nearly enough to cover the replacement, and with Alana's medical bills from the accident, thankfully there was no permanent damage, just a broken arm and leg, there was no way we could afford to replace Casey's car immediately. Alana was very apologetic to Casey, and so were we, since we couldn't afford to replace her car. Casey didn't accept our apology and has been basically avoiding us, skipping family dinners, and pretty much pretending that her mom, Alana, and I don't even exist, and only talks to us if she needs a form signed for school. I begged her to come to a family therapy session, and she eventually relented, but with the condition that Alana wouldn't be present. In the therapy session, she told us that she won't be resuming a relationship with us until we replace her car, which realistically won't be until next year. When the therapist asked how she expected us to do that, Casey said that we could just make Alana work to earn the money. The issue with Alana is that she has severe ADHD and already has trouble managing her schoolwork. I'm worried that making her work to earn the money will harm her grades and have significant ramifications for her future. Casey said, "Well, she should have thought about that before destroying my car. I don't care. I'm not going to speak to any of you unless I have my car replaced." I responded that she was free to avoid speaking to me for as long as she wanted to, but I'm not going to permanently harm her sister's future to get her a car earlier. My wife agrees with me that we need to stand firm in our decision, but she is also genuinely afraid of Casey never speaking to her again. I understand that her car was ruined, but I, as a parent, need to look out for all my kids, not just one. I also don't want to set the precedent that emotional blackmail will work, even if what you're asking for is unreasonable. Am I the jerk? Then his wife posted her version of the story. I, 39 female, and my husband, 43 male, have 2 daughters, Alana, who's 16, and Casey, who's 17. Casey has held down a steady job for over a year now and was able to get herself a car. She got this car right as Alana passed her own driver's test, so there was a little issue between who was going to be driving. After a little persuasion, Casey did allow Alana to use her car so long as somebody else paid for gas. We told her that wasn't going to cut it. Alana doesn't have the money for that, and it's her car, her responsibility to keep gas in it and keep it on the road. Here's where it gets difficult. Alana wrecked about a month ago. Luckily, she was okay, but Casey was fuming the entire time and seemed to have this expectation that we would be replacing her car. Her and my husband got into it, and she threw her arms up like a child and just stopped speaking to us. We coaxed her into going to family therapy with us, though it wasn't productive, as she and the therapist agreed that it would be best to maintain the reduced contact until she's paid back. Here's the problem. That car was 15 grand. She saved up every penny for a year for that car. She'd ask us about twice a week if we changed our mind, and obviously the answer was no, but that was the only thing she'd say to us. It didn't seem to bother my husband, and he kept saying she'll get over it until last week. She packed some things and had my mother come and get her. She's been staying at her grandmother's for a little over a week now, and she gave me a good earful. Whatever Casey told her worked, because earlier today, my husband and I were informed we had 30 days to replace the car in full or she was taking us to court. I think my husband is admirable in wanting to stand his ground, but the way I'm looking at it, we have 2 options, and I'm sick of my daughter not talking to me because of crap that's not my fault. Alana has been in a wreck, she's already battling severe ADHD, and now she's shaking at the thought of having to appear in court. So I set them both down and said we have 2 options. We can get over it, pay $15,000, and have our daughter and sister back, and Alana will just have to get over it and work. Or we can let my dad sue my husband and I on Casey's behalf and almost certainly lose. We spoke to 4 different firms, and all 4 echoed similar sentiment. that it would probably cost us close to triple in the end to bring it to court and fight it there. So that's when I told my husband I'm not going 30 grand further into debt for him to hold the pettiest grudge. He's saying that I'm being manipulative by holding this whole situation over his and Alana's heads. I'm not saying it's not partly my fault. All I said was that no matter what, at the end of the day, we owe Casey and he needs to just accept that. We can afford $15,000 to replace the car, but if we have to dish out double that, just to lose in court anyway, I'm divorcing him before he makes that mistake. In either case, I'm done not supporting both of my daughters. We've tried reasoning with Casey and it's resulted in nothing. We lost this one. Am I the jerk for telling my husband to just accept it? I feel I may be, just for how long I was being a passenger in the situation, and for threatening my husband with divorce. I don't think we did anything that wrong, but I'm willing to admit when we made some mistakes and we have to make up for it somehow. Update. I went to therapy as a lot of you suggested, and I was assessed with a diagnosis for obsessive-compulsive disorder in my second session. And in my third session, we discussed the whole car situation, and my personal therapist explained it to me in a way that made it hard to not feel awful for Casey. The discussion we had covered quite a lot, but the common denominator in everything that's been going wrong has in large part been my husband. He's the reason Casey shared her car. He's the reason Alana got hurt driving on her own, and he's the reason we're set for court in barely a week and still don't have an attorney. And me, I don't know what I've been doing, but it hasn't been being a mother. One of you asked me straight up why I was being a passenger, and I just don't have a good answer. I let my parents know about the divorce, and they were a little concerned, but what I didn't expect was for Casey to reach out. The last time we talked was mostly her and my husband butting heads. I really thought she'd be upset with me, but I've never heard her cry like that, at least not since she was much younger. I make a little bit more than my husband, but finding an apartment was brutal, especially with Alana wanting to come with me. I don't think I was clear enough about how badly I want to pay Casey back before, but I do. Most of my money is in joint savings though, so there isn't much I can afford, but my husband wasn't going to back down. I won't lie, I was selfish. I begged Casey to drop my name from this suit. I told her I would pay what I could afford to right this second, which wasn't much in comparison, and she told me that it wasn't so much the car or the value on its own she wanted back. It was the security to have something of her own, and she listed off probably dozens of instances where Alana got first pick over her, and it was very hard to refute. She told me that losing that much money sucked, which I fully understand, but the bigger loss to her was that her first big girl purchase, which a lot of friends and family were excited about, was now going to be remembered as a family-ending disaster. She told me that she knows I can't replace that. We agreed to breakfast next week and joint therapy, the two of us, and her only condition was that I don't try at any point to save him from the suit, which I agreed to. Alana came to me even before my last post, saying she only drove so far because my now ex-husband pressured her into picking up the grocery order early for something he wanted to make. This also changed my perspective. I was under the impression that she was doing her own thing, but even my husband owned up to that, which ground my gears, but I put it together. Illegal driver in an expensive car, not insured, and under pressure, Alana drove, but I've come to realize that my ex-husband seems to have a tendency to like to pressure people. He's pressured me a lot too. I've seen a lot of bold assumptions that I hate Casey and that I vastly favor Alana, but I only feel the second part was ever accurate. I've never hated her. I was frustrated with her over something I've come to realize wasn't her fault. As of now, I'm just adjusting to a much quieter place and to my phone buzzing nonstop. I've only moved out for 5 days, and Alana has seemed so much less anxious, at least to me. As for Casey, I'll admit it. I hope she wins. I hope she gets her car and then some. As for the divorce, I don't want much material. I won't say no to it. I'd rather just have my share of joint savings and try to tackle my own issues, of which I guess I have more than I would have been willing to admit a month ago. Am I the jerk for telling my daughter that if she wants to move back in with me, she has to obey my rules? I'll keep the background short. I divorced my ex-husband when my daughter, Maria, was 10. I got the house, but I was a stay-at-home mom, so I had trouble making ends meet. So lots of budgeting after I got a job in my field again. My ex didn't have this problem and he could spoil her. He spoiled her rotten, and it really affected our relationship. I would tell her that I can't afford to get her a $1,000 laptop, and it would cause a huge argument about how dad is better. I tried to get her a job. Argument happened. When she was 17, she decided to drop out from high school. I told her no. She told me it was her life and she can do what she wants. Another argument, and she left to go live with her dad permanently. I tried to contact her multiple times, but she told me I wasn't her mother anymore and to just leave her alone. She's now 21 and her dad has gotten remarried and basically kicked her out. She called me and we met up. She wants to move back in with me, and I told her only under these conditions. 1. She needs to get her GED. 2. She needs to be working a job at least 25 hours a week. 3. She needs to be looking into what her career will be and either go to a trade school or college. 4. She won't need to pay rent but needs to buy her own stuff, like clothes and personal items. 5. She needs to contribute to the shared areas. Chores. She would refuse to do them as a kid. And 6. Finally, no partying lifestyle. She needs to focus on getting her life together, not going out every night like she used to. Save that for the weekend. She called me a crazy jerk and said that I'm a horrible mother. I informed her that she made it clear she has no mother. She stormed out and I'm getting angry texts now. You're the jerk. This poor girl had to go through her parents getting divorced when she was 10. Then she had her mom blaming her for the manipulation of the ex-husband. You gave up on a teenager. 21 is still so young, but my kids could come home at any age. You chose to have a kid, you chose who would be the father of that kid, and you chose how to raise her. Now you have the chance to get her back in your life and away from her dad, the guy who was so bad that you divorced him and who kicked out his own kid. But you'd rather be harsh and compassionless by demanding to control her life instead of being understanding and encouraging. It sounds like you were thrilled to throw "you're not my mother" back at her. She's been through so much at such a young age, and you're supposed to be her mom, not the agent of her karma. You're the jerk. I hope she lands on her feet, and I hope she knows that she was never the problem. You're the jerk. Yes, she's technically an adult at 21. However, she's only in this situation because of her father enabling her choices and you essentially abandoning her. You're holding her actions from when she was a kid over her. She had no guidance growing up, and you bailed when it got hard. You need to help her get there, and it won't be easy for either of you now that she's gotten older. Whatever happened between you and her dad for you to absolutely give up on trying with her is a true shame. You failed her as much as her father failed her. I'm appalled at everyone who's saying this is a reasonable reaction. Yes, some of the rules are reasonable and necessary to establish boundaries, respect, etc. But you need to ease her into this. It's setting her up for failure when she needs support from one of her parents. She's currently being rejected by both of you, and you need to realize you're only contributing to this damage. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her daughter? Please let us know. OP's just trying to get her daughter on the right track so her kid doesn't end up like these commenters. You know we lose subscribers every time you say something like that, right? Yeah, well, hopefully we can gain some new ones with above single-digit IQs. Subscribe to the channel if you have above single-digit IQ. Would I be the jerk for not telling my husband I'm pregnant until after he's back from his trip? My husband is a stay-at-home dad to our 4-year-old daughter. He's an extremely devoted and loving dad who has barely spent any time away from her, and she's a major daddy's girl. In 2 weeks, he's going to his best friends from college for a whole week. He's going to be reuniting with his college friends that he hasn't seen or spent time with all together since our own wedding. He originally wanted the 3 of us to go, but I convinced him to just go by himself because I think being alone would make him enjoy it more, so he didn't have to do childcare. I think our daughter's too young for that big of a trip for people she's only met once. And also, I'm planning on taking a week off work and would love to spend one-on-one time with her that we so rarely get. This morning, I learned that I'm pregnant. We've been trying for some time now, and we really want lots of kids. So I'm over the moon, and I know my husband and daughter will be too. I've not told my husband yet. My first pregnancy was a huge prepper, and when I learned I was pregnant, he went into overdrive with preparing, researching, and taking care of me. He was incredibly helpful and loving, and it was so sweet, but he also really worked himself up and got stressed. I don't think it'll be as bad with this one, but I could still see it being a lot. I honestly don't really want to tell him until after his trip in 3 weeks, even though it's a huge secret for me to keep. I know he'll potentially be upset, which with him is very tame, when he finds out I'd known for 3 weeks, but would get over it fast. My concern with telling him is I could honestly see it ruining his trip. I cannot imagine the constant texts asking me questions for the millionth times or sharing his most recent thoughts. I really want him to have a chill and fun trip and be able to decompress. And for myself, I want to be able to just focus on having a great time with my daughter. But I also don't want to just hide something so hugely important to our family from him, since he obviously deserves to know. I can't really decide. Would I be the jerk if I decided to wait to tell him until after his trip? Not the jerk. but definitely don't tell anyone else before him. OP. Oh yeah, definitely not telling anyone else. That's why I'm asking Reddit for advice on this, and not friends or family. Although I may tell my daughter right before he gets home because I'm loving all of the surprise suggestions I'm seeing, especially with her wearing a big sister shirt. Update. So I hadn't planned to give an update so soon, but even though I'd planned on waiting until after my husband's trip, after a few days it became clear to me I could not wait that long. He definitely knew something was up with me. I'd been getting crazy excited and had been chomping at the bit to tell him. And honestly, it just didn't feel good to keep something that big from him for so long. We've been trying for this baby for close to a year now, and it's such happy news, and I decided it's just not worth it. But I still wanted to give him the surprise I had planned. I asked him to go out to the store to grab something really quick, and before he got home, I had my daughter put on the shirt I'd gotten her that had "Only Child" crossed out with "Big Sister" written underneath. When he came through the front door, she sprinted to him, yelling about how her shirt had a secret message for him. He was very taken aback, and it took him a second, but once it clicked, he was beyond excited, as was our very confused daughter once we told her. She started dancing around the house singing about having a baby sister, which she is adamant it will be, and it was just a really good day. He's still going on his trip and has not even been close to as stressed as he was last time. If anything, he's looking forward to it even more now because he knows it's going to be a last chance to really decompress before things become a whole lot crazier. Thank you to everyone for all the lovely comments and responses that I got. I really appreciated them all. I showed my husband the post and admitted my original plans, and he got a big kick out of it. But he's very glad that I told him before the trip. What? A wholesome story with two parents that are still married and a happy kid? No divorce? No cheating? No... Yeah, I feel like we hit a glitch in the Matrix or something. Where did Reddit go and what universe are we in? Don't get too excited, Karen. Here's one to bring you back to reality. Am I the jerk for not telling my boyfriend I own the building we live in? When I was 18, my dad gifted me a house with 2 stories. I'm extremely thankful. We're not upper class, but my dad bought this house for a cheap price a long time ago. It was his grandmother's cousin's house. I know that this was an extreme privilege, and I'm forever grateful for this. The layout of this building is like an apartment, but it's a house. So basically, each story has its own separate entry, its own kitchen and bathroom. I live upstairs while I rent out the downstairs. My boyfriend, 25, male, moved in with me about 3 months ago, and we've been together for 6 months. I've not asked him for money, neither for utilities or to pay me any rent. The only thing he contributes to is groceries, that we split 50-50. I've not brought up that I own the building, as it's not something I tell many people. If people ask me, I of course tell them that I own it. But if they just assume that I'm a renter, then they can believe that. The topic of a landlord, the renter downstairs, or the owner of the building has not been something we've talked about. This last Tuesday, the renter came up to tell me that her freezer had stopped working. I answered the door, and my boyfriend heard us talking, I suppose. I went downstairs to take a look, and we came to the conclusion that she would buy a new one, send me the receipt, and I would give her the money. She was very grateful for this solution. When I went upstairs, my boyfriend asked if it could be fixed. I told him no, but she was going to buy a new one and I would pay for it. He looked at me like I was crazy and asked me why would I pay for her freezer. I told him that because I am her landlord, the freezer was there when she started renting. I would stand for the cost. He just asked me if I was serious, to which I said I was. He began screaming at me, asking why the heck I would hold this information from him and that I was an evil person. I said I was sorry for not telling him, but I did not think that it would matter. He said he could not believe he was together with someone who is a landlord, that all of us just use people for money, and that the only thing we people care about is money, and would rather have people be homeless than offering affordable rent. The downstairs is 1 kitchen, 1 bath, and 4 other rooms. I charge $500 in rent. I understand many people have had trouble with landlords, but I try my best to be a good one. He demanded that I give him 50% of the money I make from rent, or else I would be just as bad as he thought I was. Was I really the jerk for not telling him? He has not talked to me since Tuesday, and I've tried telling him that I'm truly sorry, but he doesn't answer me at all. Not the jerk. He showed his true colors at, give me half the money or you're just as bad as any other landlord. If he actually thought you renting out the lower half of the building was morally reprehensible, the ultimatum would be, stop charging the person downstairs rent, or offer to sell the downstairs unit to them, or even donate the profit to charities that help people secure stable housing. But no, he only actually cares that he didn't know about this stream of income and now he wants in. Not the jerk. Dump him. I know that's a common response on this subreddit, But this dude was happy to exploit you for free lodging. And now that he finds out you've got income he wasn't aware of, he wants half of it just because. Or else you're a big meanie? You do not owe him an apology. You owe him a kick in the rear. OP. He sees it as both a way of me proving that I'm not renting as a way to grab money from people, so that money is not what I care about. I should have no trouble giving him half, but also as a way to prove to him that I'm sorry for not telling him earlier that I own the building. Let me get this straight. He must not have offered to pay half of the rent, because then it would have come up and you would have told him, right? He's living with you rent-free. Up to now, he thought you were paying the entire rent. On what planet does he deserve half of the tenant's rent money? Please reconsider this relationship, not the jerk. OP. No, he did not offer to pay any of the rent. If he offered, I would have explained to him that I own the building. In hindsight, I should have told him that it was my building that he would be living in with me, even if he didn't ask. I think that outburst really showed me how he was. I thought about breaking up with him, but also thought I was maybe overthinking it. If it comes to that, at least I learned something for future relationships. You're the jerk. Landlords are always the jerk, no matter what the circumstances. Humans are people, and people do not exist for you to profit off of. There is never an excuse to be greedy and use people to make money. Plus, with the housing crisis the way it is, people like you who hoard housing just because you're rich, it makes me sick. You're no better than the millionaires who own Walmart and Amazon, exploiting people for profit. This is why I joined the anti-work movement 8 years ago, and I've never looked back. With the taxes that the rich pay, there are resources for all of us to not have to work and still receive monthly payments to live comfortably on. They make it complicated to try to keep you from doing it, but trust me, it's all worth it once you have that monthly check and you never have to work again. Oh, you're mad that I get to draw all day and watch my favorite shows while you slave away? Then join the movement and stick it to these millionaires. Or be a fool and keep slaving away at jobs you hate for literally a few dollars an hour. I make twice my state's minimum wage, and I never even have to leave my apartment. Edit. To those of you who are mad that I'm winning in life, keep your opinions to yourself, but have fun at work. I'll be watching Adventure Time. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.